Good evening and welcome to the April 4, 2022 regular meeting of the Mayor and City Council. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Tom Lonergan-Seeger to come up and lead us in the pledge. If everyone could please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Tom. Next item on our agenda is reflection. I'd like to call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you all very much. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes. Tonight we have two sets of minutes ready for approval. The first is from the regular session on February 22nd, 2022. What is the pleasure of the council?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. Next, we have the minutes from the Monday, March 21st meeting, 2022. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move the approval of the minutes.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I shall abstain.
Okay.
Even though I watched.
Okay, so that carries 4-0 with one abstention, Councilmember Wu. Next on our agenda, we have three presentations, all of proclamations. The first is the Arab American Heritage Month proclamation, and I'm going to hand it over to Councilmember Henderson to read the background material.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. April is dedicated to Arab American Month, recognizing people with ancestry from a wide range of Arabic-speaking countries and regions in the Middle East and parts of Northern Africa. The United States is home to over 3.5 million Arab Americans who trace their ancestry to 22 countries, stretching from North Africa to the Arabian Gulf. The number of Marylanders who claim an Arab ancestry have more than doubled since the census first measured ethnic origins in 1980, and is among the fastest growing Arab population in the country. The largest number of new Arab immigrants to Maryland come from Iraq, Egypt, and Morocco. During the month of April, the City of Gaithersburg Multicultural Affairs Committee will celebrate the cultural influences of Arab Americans with an educational art display available for viewing at the Activity Center from April 2nd through April 28th. Receiving this year's proclamation is Arbor Since July 2019, Arbor has been serving as the Middle Eastern Liaison, Office of Community Partnerships, Montgomery County Community Engagement Cluster. She supports the OCP's work in strengthening...
Lisa, can I put you on for a second? Tech team, there's a slide to go with this. If you can put that up, please. We can see the actual proclamation. Well, go ahead, Lisa. They'll catch up with that slide.
Okay. Ms. El-Borai supports the OCP's work in strengthening relationships between the Montgomery County government and the Middle Eastern American resident, with special focus on underserved and emerging communities. The mission of the OCP is to carry out the county executive's commitment to build a larger policy table with partnerships by more diverse range and greater number of residents as the county government works to become America's most welcoming community. In addition to her extensive experience in education, Arbor is also an artist. In recognition of Arab Heritage Month, she selected a collection of her realism and digital art pieces that depict the endless beauty of the Arabic culture. Her paintings are inspired by the positive symbolism of each subject and will be on display as part of the Multicultural Affairs Committee Arab Heritage Month educational art exhibit. We encourage everyone to stop by to view the artwork and learn more about our Arab neighbors.
Thank you, Lisa. I have not seen the slide go up quite yet, but hopefully they're working on that, and if we can show it later, if that works better. So Next, we're going to move on to our proclamation of Green Month, and April 21st is Arbor Day in the city of Gaithersburg. I'm going to turn it over to the liaison to our Environmental Affairs Committee, Robert Wu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll note there's a slide for this one as well, but I'll read anyway.
Okay.
As part of our annual Green Month celebration, the city of Gaithersburg is excited to commit to sustainable practices that balance the needs of people, planet, and posterity. Our celebration kicks off tonight with exciting events all month long that include honoring our 8 environmental award winners on social media and in our Green in Gaithersburg newsletter, screening the film Inhabitants, a documentary film that follows 5 Native American tribes across deserts, coastlines, forests, and prairies as they restore their traditional land management practices. The virtual screening link will be active from April 15th to April 29th. Registration is required. Kicking off the 2nd annual Capital Area Solar Co-op, residents and small business owners are encouraged to join the co-op to learn about opportunities for producing and procuring clean energy. There is no commitment to purchasing solar if you join the co-op. Giving away trees at the April 21st Casey Farms Market. The market will also have a container gardening tutorial. Hosting our first Fix It Fair, volunteer fixers will be helping community members repair small appliances, textiles, lamps, and tools so they can be restored to use, reducing the need to buy new and saving that material from landfill or incineration. Closing out our celebration is the April 30th free community shredding and e-waste recycling at the Activity Center at Borough Park. For more details, to see a list of our 14 Green Month events, visit the city's website or email environment@gaithersburgmd.gov.
Thank you very much, Rob. And big kudos to our staff and to the Environmental Affairs Committee for putting together all of these activities. Next, we have the proclamation for Days of Remembrance, which will go from April 24th through Sunday, May 1st. And I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Spiegel to read the background on this.
Thank you, Mayor. The Days of Remembrance is an annual 8-day period designated by the United States Congress to help citizens remember and draw lessons from the Holocaust. The period normally begins on the Sunday before the Jewish observance of Yom HaShoah, or Holocaust Remembrance Day, and continues through the following Sunday. A national civic commemoration is held in Washington, D.C., with state, city, and local ceremonies and programs held in most of the 50 states. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum was created as a permanent living memorial to the victims and provides materials to help support remembrance efforts. Accepting this year's proclamation is Connie Liss, a Gaithersburg resident and a member and past president of Sha'arei Torah congregation. Connie was born in Feldafing, Germany, in a displaced persons camp. Her parents, Dina and Kalman Jacobson, were Holocaust survivors. Her mother survived Auschwitz, and her father survived Dachau. Each of them lost most of their families. They came to the United States in 1950 and settled in Elmira, New York. There is a documentary film about her mother, which can be found on Vimeo, called Blue Tattoo, Dina's Story, Joe's Song.
Thank you very much, Ryan. And Tech Team, at some point, maybe at the end of the meeting, we can put these slides up so everyone can see the recipients of these proclamations. But for now, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is public comments. This is the time the mayor and council like to hear from anybody who'd like to speak on any topic that's not a public hearing topic, and it's easy tonight because we have no public hearings. We ask that you state your name and address or neighborhood if you feel more comfortable for the record. We ask that you keep your comments no more than 3 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes worth of material to deliver, then feel free to use your 3 minutes here and deliver the rest in writing. We'll consider it just like oral testimony. Do we have anybody here in the audience tonight who'd like to speak during public comments? Not seeing anyone. Let me just go over to Zoom and see if we have anybody. Tech team, if you could play the instructional video for those on Zoom, that would be great. It may, I don't know.
Dennis went up to check.
Okay. There seems to be some disconnect. So for those watching, here we go.
If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
Thank you very much, Tech Team. Is there anybody on Zoom this evening who'd like to speak under public comments? Use the Zoom raise hand feature. Not seeing any? Okay. Well, then we will move on to our next agenda item, which is from the Mayor and City Council, and we're going to start with Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 24th of March, I had the opportunity to attend with other council members and the mayor, the HOA Virtual Sustainability Summit. It was enlightening for me to see what the HOAs are doing within the city in order to maintain the environment and sustainability. It was very interesting, particularly in terms of stormwater, creek management, and so it was a good session. Also, on March 26th, I was invited to attend with Victory Christian Church the food drive that they do once a month at Seneca Village Apartments. They handed out 150 bags of food, and as a reminder that as the pandemic is hopefully slowing down and going bye-bye, that there are still people in need. And the Gaithersburg Hub does a fantastic job of distributing food and working with nonprofits and churches to make sure that others can eat. So as there were folks who needed food prior to the pandemic, that need is still there, and some even as a result of the pandemic. So let's continue to give if we can to make sure that everyone has food to eat. Also attended the Gaithersburg branch of the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity held a blood drive for sickle cell anemia, and they were attempting to get, I hope I get it correct, 40 pints of blood, and ended up getting 146 pints, I believe. So they exceeded their goal and will continue to collect blood. Across the nation, there is a shortage of blood. So give if you can, particularly for individuals who suffer from problems like sickle cell anemia, that there is no cure and they need blood to survive. On Friday, this past Friday, attended the youth voice workshop with the mayor, and it was an enlightening day. So enlightening afternoon that we spent with the youth of Gaithersburg and some even outside of the city of Gaithersburg who sat with us in circles. I had a circle of 6, and I was fortunate to sit with 6 15-year-olds, none of whose English was their first language, who talked about their challenges and about their hopes in the future. I met an individual, a young girl who was 15 years old, has been in this country for a month from Guatemala, is not with her biological family, and sat in the circle and spoke of her wishes and hopes to graduate from high school, to go to college, to the career that she wants to obtain. And it was very enlightening to see that level of hope from someone who's been in this country for a month, who's still trying to understand the language, and to see the smiles on the faces. And I'm sure not every day for her and others goes that well, but it is because of the programs that the city of Gaithersburg and the Youth and Sports Services Division put the program together, and the Educational Enrichment Program, and a bunch of nonprofits, Identity Brothers Academy, who were there to help, that these programs happen, that these individuals are supported and thrive and have hope to achieve and see their future. So congratulations to all the folks who were there, who supported and who put these programs together to make sure that our youth can survive. and thrive. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll go to Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the honor of attending the ribbon cutting of the Roseboro Brain Health and Wellness Center of Excellence at Asbury Methodist Village, and was able to present a proclamation on behalf of the city. In attendance were County Executive Elrich, Councilmember Katz, Councilmember Harris as well, and representatives from Senator Van Hollen's office and Congressman Trone's office as well. There are activities that test both cognitive and reactive abilities. It has a rock wall. There's a punching bag. They had a 96-year-old woman actually has already climbed the rock wall. It's an impressive facility, and it's exciting. It's an exciting addition for the residents of Asbury and for our community. It sounds like there are going to be plans to actually open it up beyond the Asbury community in the future. So just a really wonderful expansion of programs for our residents at Asbury. I also participated in a virtual meeting discussing public art at the Skate Spot over near Diamond Farm Park, which included our Councilmember Emeritus Mike Sesma. We are still looking for additional input from the community about public art in this space, and I encourage you, if you are interested, to check out the city's website to find out more information about that. And a bit of point of personal privilege. Saturday night, I had the honor of attending the annual dinner dance and auction for St. Martin's Catholic School, which is here in Old Town. St. Martin's is the oldest Catholic school in Montgomery County, and it is my son's final year there. So it's a little bittersweet to attend my last auction as a member of that school community. St. Martin's has been serving Gaithersburg for over 100 years. So it's been an honor to serve on that board, and I look forward to to all the great things that this faith community does for the city, including the food pantry that many of you may be aware of. The event was at the Cabinet Seneca Creek. It's a great county facility. I'd never been. I've driven past it so many times driving my son to baseball. It's a really, really nice venue that the county offers, and I encourage folks to check that out if they're looking for a venue. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm sure at the Skate Spot public art event that former council member Sesma reminisced about how it was 13, 14 years ago when the skate spots were first introduced, and the pushback that, as Ryan remembers, that we got from some members of the public. Not necessarily, it was more in Kentlands and Lakelands than it was from ours, but here we are, and now the spots have been wildly successful, and we're looking at public art. It's great.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Wu.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to congratulate the Environmental Affairs Committee on all their hard work with respect to Green Month. I've been attending the meetings and just seeing the amount of enthusiasm that they're putting into the programming, and it shows with just the brief listing that we put forward today and the more comprehensive program that is on our website. Also, commemorating our American Heritage Month. It's very important, I think, here in the city, and I wish that more cities would do so. But in conjunction with that, given that that the populations of our Arab countries are predominantly Muslim, I'd like to also recognize and commemorate the beginning of Ramadan, the holy month in Islam, and wish everyone that practices a blessed month in that regard. And with respect to the Day of Remembrance, obviously very important. Ryan did it justice in commemorating and reading the proclamation, so I'll recognize that as well. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. We'll go to Council Vice President Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. As Councilmember McNulty mentioned, Asbury did a ribbon cutting for their Brain Health Center for Excellence, which was a very impressive facility. I'm still trying to wrap my head around how boxing is good for brain health, but hopefully they don't do a lot of hitting in the head as part of that. But it's really a very impressive facility, and the talk by the consultant who was brought in from California to help put the center together in terms of the science behind it was very, very impressive. What's going on there, very important and great to have that in our city. I attended the Transportation Committee meeting, and among the many subjects that were discussed at the meeting this month was the fact that Bike to Work Day is coming up on May 20th. It's an annual event throughout the metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. As always, there will be a stop at where Kentlands Boulevard meets Great Seneca Highway. There will be giveaways and T-shirts and refreshments of all sorts. So I look forward to seeing any of you there. I mostly work from home, and I'm not carrying my bike up to the 4th floor where my home office is, but I will be going out to the stop this year. So hope to see all of you there. It's a way to encourage people to be a little bit healthier, and that's always a good thing. And speaking of transportation, I was asked to join a Maryland Municipal League task force that is focused on statewide transportation funding. And the challenge for transportation funding that we're focused on is most of the funding that maintains our roads and other transportation infrastructure comes from the gas tax. And thanks to the increasing fuel economy of automobiles, people are using less gasoline as time goes by, which is a good thing. And pretty soon, we'll all be driving electric and other zero-emission vehicles and won't be using gasoline anymore, hopefully sooner than later. That really wipes out the majority of funding in the state and in most states in the federal government for maintaining our transportation infrastructure. So this task force is looking at what the alternatives might be to create a funding source to replace that, because it's critical. Obviously, we need to pay for maintaining the roads. So I'll keep you posted as bright ideas emerge. That's it for now. Thank you.
And we'll go to Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. As Councilmember McNulty was listing off the long list of distinguished attendees at the Asbury Brain Health event, I was surprised to see that he did not include Spider-Man, who, as I understand it from photographs on social media, was also in attendance. And, you know, that's just a reflection of my FOMO. I'm disappointed that I didn't attend the event and get a chance to meet Spider-Man. But it does seem like it was a great event, so congratulations to everybody who was involved in that. On March 22nd, I had the opportunity to meet with Liberty's Promise high school student group at Gaithersburg High School and have a good long discussion about local government and community service, and a lot of the same themes and feelings that Councilmember Henderson so eloquently reflected in her comments tonight in the event that she attended with some of our youth in the community. So it was a great opportunity to connect with them. And Liberty's Promise is really doing excellent work as a nonprofit in our community. And just really glad that I had the opportunity and honored to be invited to speak with those students. I want to echo what's already been said, to thank all those involved, both staff and community organizers and other volunteers, in putting together Arab American Heritage Month this year and every year, as well as Green Month, and all of the creativity that's gone into having hybrid events and virtual events, and now, fortunately, some in-person events again as well. As to the proclamation that I read, or the background materials on the proclamation on the Days of Remembrance, some of you already know that much of my extended family actually perished in the Holocaust. But as we read the proclamation tonight, and as we reflected on the commitment to ensure that these mass atrocities never happen again, we always say never again, I can't help but think about the terrible news reports and images coming out of Bucha, Ukraine today. I think most, if not all of us, have seen some of that and heard about some of that already this week. And the reality is that in today's world, even some 77 or 78 years since the end of World War II and the Holocaust, we are still witnessing atrocities against innocent civilians on a mass scale in Ukraine, but not only in Ukraine, in other places around the world too. And we need to work across communities and across borders in the name of our common humanity against such atrocities. And I just wanted to say tonight that it's my fervent hope and prayer that in Ukraine and elsewhere, justice will prevail. And I ask that all of us continue to do whatever we can, even if it's in our own small way, to help prevent such atrocities in the world, to offer aid and comfort to survivors, to affirm their truth, and to hold those responsible accountable. In other news, I also wanted to mention that the nonprofit organization, the Friends of Wells Robertson House Incorporated, which supports the efforts of the city government's Homeless Services Division, is hosting a fundraising auction at the Activity Center at Borough Park this coming Saturday, April 9th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. The silent auction will feature a variety of items, including artwork, collectibles, small vintage furniture, electronics, and more. And I want to encourage folks to participate. Swing by the Activity Center on Saturday. Do your part to maybe get a good item from the auction, but more importantly, support the important cause of our Homeless Services Division and the Friends of Wells Robertson House. And as some of you know, the Homeless Services Division operates the Wells Robertson House and the DeSelum House, which are transitional housing programs for homeless men and women in recovery from substance use disorder. We're somewhat rare in the region as a city government of our size that actually owns and operates those programs. And we're thankful to the Friends of Wells Robertson House for any support that they can provide for those important programs. And then finally, echoing what Councilmember Wu already said, I want to wish everybody who is observing and celebrating a springtime holiday or other commemoration all the best. To our Muslim friends and neighbors, Ramadan Mubarak. Happy Passover to our Jewish friends and neighbors. Happy Easter to our Christian friends and neighbors, because we will not have another formal city council meeting until these holidays have already passed. And for any other spring observations that folks are commemorating, I wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll get to enjoy some nice weather in the coming few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. I will echo everybody's remarks and associate myself with them. I will go a little bit further with the Youth Voice workshop that Lisa brought up. It was the first time we tried this. It was a really interesting event. We brought together high school and middle school kids who the city serves in various ways, or who are our market to serve in recreational programs and what have you. And the point was to hear from them. Usually we do all the talking, as you guys in the audience might recognize. And it was refreshing, and it's a healthy exercise for us, and inspiring in many, many ways, as Lisa very well put it. So I look forward to our continuance of that event and commend staff and our Educational Enrichment Committee for putting that together. I missed the Asbury event because I was last week at the Maryland Mayors Association conference in Annapolis. Some of our discussion topics were American Rescue Plan funds and how sort of the framework about how they can be spent and received and utilized, legislative updates, and we got an interesting presentation. I'll have to get with Tanisha about programs for federal surplusing of items and state surplusing of items that could be of use here. They make it available to local governments and to nonprofits, and so it's just something we should keep an eye on. Also wanted to mention the Gaithersburg Book Festival is coming up in person on May 21st. We're bringing more than 130 authors, some of the very, very best in the business. No matter what you're interested in, for political types who might come to a city council meeting, you might be interested in Peter Baker, the main senior White House correspondent for the New York Times, has a book on the life of James Baker, and we have Jamie Raskin talking about impeachment and his son, and we have Congressman Adam Schiff coming to talk about impeachment, and Fiona Hill, from former National Security Council member, here to talk about impeachment. It's not all impeachment. We have tons of others. We have sci-fi, we have fiction, all that. But we do. If you're interested in impeachment, you definitely want to be with us on May 21st. And with that, I'll note that next week we have a work session. Monday, April 11th, 7:30 p.m. We're going to receive a presentation on the Metropolitan Washington Planning Framework for 2030. And the next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be April 18th. And we will conduct these meetings in a hybrid fashion, so you can come in person or you can participate on Zoom, just like tonight. And with that, we'll go to from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually don't have anything to report this evening.
Okay, well then we will move on to economic development update. Tom Lonergan, Seeger.
Thank you, Mayor, and given the agenda that lies ahead and the audience that's shown up to hear that, I'm going to abbreviate my comments considerably and just mention that Phoenix-based True Food Kitchen, co-founded in 2008, will soon be opening its 5th DC area location right here in Gaithersburg at Rio. 41 locations nationwide. Probably know Oprah Winfrey is among those backers of that business. The Rio location will be opening on April 25th, includes a 171-seat dining room, open kitchen, full-service bar, covered patio, and private dining room. But I did want to mention there is a 3-week-long job fair that has started. A lot of information about those careers at truefoodkitchen.com. But tomorrow and Wednesday between 10 and 6, they are doing on-site hiring if anyone's interested. That's all.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the new restaurant opening in the city of Gaithersburg. Okay, next we're going to move on to ordinances, resolutions, and regulations. And I'm going to invite Janice Hartman. Welcome, Janice, our Acting Director of Finance and Administration, to talk about getting an audit.
All right, good evening. The resolution before you is to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract for financial statement audit services. On December 22nd, 2021, the city solicited proposals for financial statement auditing services for the current and next 4 fiscal years, FY22 and through FY26. The city received 4 responses from the following firms: Clifton Larson LLP, Maurer Dussel, SB and Company LLC, UHY LLP. The review team initially comprised of the comptroller, chief accountant, network operations division manager, and then director of the Department of Finance reviewed all proposal documents. Based on the initial review of the proposals, the top 2 firms were selected for virtual interviews, and the acting director of finance, chief accountant, and network operations division manager met with them. Both firms were then asked to submit best and final pricing. The pricing for all 4 responses can be found on packet page 35. For the 5-year contract, CLA proposed a fee of $310,000. Maurer Dussel proposed $295,000. SB and Company proposed $222,000, and UHY proposed $260,000. Based upon the proposals, references, and the in-person interviews, the selection committee recommends the city select SB and Company LLC for auditing services. While all firms submitted quality proposals, some of the differentiating factors that the selection committee noted, which led to the recommendation, include SBC's work and management plan, which utilizes a risk-based audit approach focusing on more material and greater risk of misstatement items, early audit planning to facilitate a more efficient audit, and regularly scheduled audit meetings. SBC also offers excellent service, including a high level of partner and manager involvement, responsive service, and open working relationships, including periodic meetings throughout the entire year. Depth of personnel specializing in auditing local governments, high quality of internal quality control and peer review process, and experience auditing similar size and scope organizations within Maryland. As far as individual staff experience and industry involvement, SBC is very active within GFOA and Maryland GFOA, and they often provide training courses at local GFOA seminars. Each key member of the proposed audit team possesses strong technical knowledge, which will allow the firm to function as a technical resource for city staff. And finally, price. SB and Company provided a best and final offer that made them the most cost-effective choice for the city of Gaithersburg. So at this time, I can take any questions that you have.
Well, first, let me commend you on the depth of information you provided here. I keep feeling, as you're reading it, I'm thinking, if we ever get audited, this is gonna pass muster. So well done. Any questions or comments, or someone want to move the resolution? Ryan.
I just had a quick question. No problem with the excellent presentation. I just wanted to confirm, as I recall, city policy is that every time we do another one of these RFPs for outside auditing services, that we're required to switch who does the audit, and the person who is the company who is the incumbent outside auditor is not allowed to rebid. I'm not sure if I'm making that up or if I misremembering
Or is it
that.
the same? Is it the partner that is in charge of the audit?
And if nobody knows the answer to that
Yeah.
question, that's all right.
So we
It
did
won't
some
affect-
research on this with the prior auditors, because we did extend their contract for a year after 5 years, and I think it's been practiced to change every 5 years, which is a good practice, but from what the research that we did, there was not a legal requirement or anything in the city code that required that.
Okay, that's
And
good to know.
this is a change in firm.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
a
I
different-
understand that.
yes,
I understand
okay.
that. That's why I think it doesn't affect tonight anyway, but I just thought I would ask because I was curious about that, and maybe we can chat offline about whether that ought to be a policy or not. But since it's a different firm, it doesn't really matter for tonight's purposes. With that, I'd be happy to move the resolution.
I'll second.
Okay, I think Jim got there first. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Sunil Prithviraj, Capital Projects Program Manager. We're going to talk about contract for custodial cleaning services. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Have a resolution in front of you. This is authorizing mayor and council members, approving city manager to extend a contract for custodial services for city facilities. City entered into a contract for custodial services for various city facilities with LT Services on October 16th of 2014 with mayor and council approval, resolution R-57-14. The initial contract expired on November 30th of 2020, and the contract was amended to extend the services until June 30th of 2022 to continue services during COVID-19 pandemic. This was done through mayor and council approval. On December 1st of 2021, we received a letter from LT Services asking for a 12% price increase from December 1st, 2021 to June 30th of 2022. And they also asked for a 5% retro price increase starting from July 1st of 2021 to end of November 2021. And they also mentioned in their request, if their increase is not approved, they want to cancel the contract and they will stop services starting on December 30th of 2022. And we discussed this with city manager and all our supervisors. And as directed and approved by city manager, we approached contractor to negotiate a 5% price increase. And contractor refused to negotiate with us and then notified us to cancel the service and terminate their contract. So city staff contacted several local jurisdictions who provide custodial services, and none of the contractors were able to provide services on such a short notice. So it was less than 15 days notice that we had. So finally, we identified a Gaithersburg firm, J&J Janitorial and Maintenance Services, Inc., who are willing to hire existing city cleaning staff and provide the services at the same cost that LT Services was providing prior to requesting the price increase. So on January 1st, 2022, we entered into a contract. This is an interim contract for 3-month service to provide custodial services. So based on from January 1st until end of March, we have done their performance review, and their cleaning standards were much better than LT Services. And they have an in-house supervisor. They're here on time, and they were able to provide a better services for us. So in order to meet FY22 budget limit that we have, and also to provide a safe, reliable, and undisturbed services during the pandemic recovery, we propose to extend the existing 3-month contract with J&J Services until June 30th of 2022, with an option to extend for 3 30-day term. So the total contract amount we are requesting is $231,335. This also includes $74,611.50 for the contingency for 3 months additional services on as-needed basis only. The said funds will be coming from buildings and grounds, facilities, buildings and grounds accounts for custodial services. So you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I have a few
Sure.
questions on this. Where to start? So we have, the proposal is to extend until the end of this fiscal year. And then are we required to go through another procurement process?
We already started our drafting a procurement process for a FY23 budget. But in the meantime, that usually we have almost done 90% of our solicitation draft. It is done. So we are planning to issue that solicitation probably end of April or first week of May. So that'll be going in. So the selection of custodial contract is a very tedious process. Overall, the contract for custodial itself is a very tedious and a complex process. And also, if you hire a new contractor, it takes almost anywhere from 3 to 6 months for the staff to know the buildings, where all the rooms and the trash bins and everything is. So the transition is a very tedious process.
I can imagine.
So we already started that process. So we will be issuing a new solicitation. But this is an interim to cover the gap between that new solicitation and the contract coming to effect.
That makes sense. If during the next procurement, if there's an extra point to be given for coming through for us in what seems like this was an unusual and dramatic situation.
It was.
Yes, we discussed with city legal, and we technically couldn't stop. Physically, we cannot stop the contractor from leaving and not providing the services for us. So the best action they suggested is to just go and hire another contractor who can provide the services. But none of the local jurisdictions, they had a capacity to provide services on such a short notice.
So, was there, not that it so much matters, I mean, LT Services has left. They ended their contract with us, but was it about inflation? LT
Services, they actually hired a subcontractor to provide services. So the staff that were there cleaning, they were not directly hired by LT Services. So their subcontractor staff, they were providing all the cleaning services for us. So they cited for the inflation and the cost of hiring people, and that is the reason why they requested. So we tried to provide at least 5% increase, so what they requested. They just flatly refused, and they just want to be out of the contract.
Right, okay.
So
Jim?
Thank you, and thank you, Sunil. Not only did J&J save the day, I mean, they were able to preserve jobs, in the middle of the pandemic. So, kudos to them, and kudos to staff for being able to be agile enough to solve that challenge very quickly. And I'm very much in favor of extending the
You want to move the resolution?
And I will move the resolution unless anybody else has any thoughts.
All right, ask your question.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Sunil. Do we know if J&J was able to preserve the wages paid to the janitorial services staff?
Yes, because all the staff that currently working, which is previously working for LT Services as a subcontractor, is the same staff. Now there is no middle management or another company. They were all hired directly by J&J. So there was no markup by LT Services. That is the price. So they were actually able to meet that wage requirements. So they're already paying the minimum wage requirement.
Okay, that's good. And maybe for future edification, do we evaluate wages as part of the evaluation of service contracts? Or do we just evaluate the total price or total cost?
No, we do evaluate. That is actually a requirement. So
Okay.
they need to meet all of the minimum requirements. They do that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want a second? Did you just say so?
He seconded.
Okay, gotcha. Any other questions or comments before we vote? Okay, none. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes,
I
please.
just want to thank Sunil for spending his New Year's Eve overseeing this transition.
I want to mention.
Come to the microphone, please.
Sorry, I want to mention our city manager. Thank you for working with us on such short notice and giving us flexibility to go and work out different solutions. Thank you for her support.
Thank you, Sunil. You did great work.
All right, we appreciate it
A
very much.
conversation we had a little while back about spot awards. Let's talk about that.
Okay, Cheryl Guth, who is our bond counsel, and we're going to talk about the issuance of these conduit bonds for Asbury.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
Hi.
So you have for your consideration tonight a resolution to authorize the issuance of economic development revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $65 million to finance capital improvements at Asbury Methodist Village here in Gaithersburg, as well as Asbury Solomons in Calvert County. As we indicated during the public hearing 2 weeks ago, these are conduit bonds. They are not the full faith and credit pledge of the city. They do not pledge the taxing power of the city, and the city is not obligated to pay the bonds. The bonds are paid from loan payments that are made by Asbury, and if they don't make the loan payments, then the bondholders don't get paid. Bondholders understand this, and that's the deal that they've made. Asbury will be paying all of the costs of the transaction, and in the loan documents, they will be indemnifying you for any liability that might come up in the future. And with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments? If not, would someone like to move the resolution?
I would like to move the resolution.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next, Jasmine, you anticipated me calling you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So good evening. This is a policy discussion for schematic development plan application SDP-9073-2021. As shown on the screen, the subject property is located within the Kentland Square Shopping Center and is zoned MXD. The applicant filed an SDP application requesting approval for 3 infill pad sites within the existing shopping center, parking lot adjacent to the at-home store, and other commercial tenants along the private drive aisle on Main Street. The new infill sites will total a maximum of 21,700 square feet and not exceed 2 stories in height. The plan also proposes a 16-foot sidewalk, which will include street trees and street lights similar to the streetscape improvements completed along the Kentland Square Place. Tenants for the sites have not been determined. The plan currently does not show final building footprints, but the maximum built-to lines. The final building footprint will be determined at final site plan submission. So a public hearing was held on January 18th. During the course of the hearing, there were comments raised about the parking waiver request, the master plan compliance, sketch plan compliance, drive-through access on Site H, and overall pedestrian connectivity within the shopping center. The Planning Commission closed their record on February 24th and made a recommendation on March 2nd. The Commission commented favorably on the SDP application and the parking waiver request. The Planning Commission recommended that the Mayor City Council approve this SDP application. So during the meeting, while the Commission supports a drive-through on Site H, they do not support the design as shown on the plans. And the applicant will need to redesign the drive-through once a final tenant has been determined to ensure that the drive-through will not cause any stacking and access issues. The applicant has acknowledged the Commission's comments in a letter, which is Exhibit 54 on the record. The Council's record closed at 5 p.m. on March 18th. Staff received 2 outside correspondences from the public in support of this application. There are 56 exhibits in the record. The applicant has submitted a response letter and exhibits which are exhibits 46 to 53. And next I will go through the applicant's responses to the question raised during the public hearing. So as part of this application, the applicant's requesting a parking waiver of 221 parking spaces. During the public hearing, there were comments raised about the waiver and the parking demand within the shopping center. The applicant's traffic engineer prepared a memo that evaluates the parking surplus within lots 1 through 4 during weekday and weekend in June of 2021. The analysis also included future conditions during peak parking season in December, the anticipated increase in development, parking spaces occupied for the Lowe's seasonal outdoor storage on lots 3 and 4, and spaces that were temporarily blocked on lot 2 with construction materials. The parking assessment is based on field observations, forecasted parking occupancy, and demand within the shopping center. The analysis was prepared assuming that the various infill buildings will be occupied by a mix of retail, restaurant, and service tenants that are consistent with the range of uses within the shopping center and the developer's strategy for the shopping center. The memo included 6 exhibits that summarizes the parking space occupancy. So I will go through each one. So this first figure shows the existing parking weekday conditions in June at the peak hour of 1 p.m. This figure notes that spaces were blocked by construction materials on Lot 2 and the Lowe's outdoor storage on Lots 3 and 4. And it's noted that there's a surplus of 746 spaces. Figure 2 shows the existing parking weekend conditions in June at the peak hour of 1 p.m. Similar to Figure 1, spaces were blocked by construction materials on Lot 2 and the Lowe's outdoor storage on Lots 3 and 4. And it was noted that there's a surplus of 677 spaces. So Figure 3 shows the future parking weekday conditions in December at the peak hour of 1 p.m. With the full 10-out build out. The spaces are not occupied by Lowe's at this time because during the winter hour time. And overall, there'll be a surplus of 282 spaces. Figure 4 shows the future weekend conditions in December with the full build out. And still the spaces are not occupied by the Lowe's outdoor storage. And there will be a surplus of 174 spaces. Figure 5 shows future weekday conditions in June at the peak hour of 1 p.m. with full build out. The exhibit took account that the spaces will be occupied by the Lowe's outdoor storage, and there will be a surplus of 449 spaces. And lastly, Figure 6 shows the future weekend condition in June at peak hour 1 p.m. with full built out. And similar to Figure 5, it took account the spaces occupied the Lowe's mulch storage on Lots 3 and 4. And overall, there'll be a 372 space surplus. So in conclusion, is the applicant's opinion that the request for a 221 parking space waiver will enhance the Kitland Square Shopping Center and will replace excess surface parking spaces within the shopping center with pedestrian streetscape improvements to promote safe and efficient multimodal circulation options through the property. There will be a surplus of spaces to support the new infill sites and not impact the existing tenants within the shopping center. Staff would note that once a final site plan and a parking waiver has been granted for these infill sites, future Lowe's outdoor storage will need to be reviewed by the Planning Commission. So next, there were questions about the developer's envision, establishing the recommendations of the Kitlands Boulevard Commercial District Special Master Plan, which was adopted in 2008. The master plan established a long-term vision for the overall Kitlands Commercial District. In the applicant's response letter, it was noted that a similar question was asked during the SDP review for the infill sites within the Lowe's parking lot. A site plan is not vested under a certain master plan until it receives SDP approval and a final site plan approval. This SDP application is in connection with the 1988 and 1997 master plan and has vested rights under the previously approved final site plan application K-977. While the Kitlands master plan established a long-term vision for the Kitlands, the document acknowledges the need for filling a short-term need to support that long-term vision. The proposed infill sites will make the Kitland Shopping Center more market responsive and thereby enhance the developer's ability to deliver that long-term vision in the 2008 master plan. The SDP application will not preclude the developer to establish that master plan in the future. So similar to the master plan, there were comments about when the developer will implement the approved sketch plan that was approved in 2017. That sketch plan represents the first phase of the long-term redevelopment strategy to implement the 2008 master plan. As noted in the applicant's response letter, the sketch plan was filed to respond to the petitions created by Kmart vacating its location and Saul's participation in the long-term planning efforts related to the corridor city's transitway. However, after receiving sketch plan approval, the Kmart space was leased to At Home, and the future planning discussions with the CCT had stalled. The proposed SDP application is separate from the previously approved 2017 sketch plan and must be in conformance with sketch plan Z-262A. As shown on the screen, the applicant has provided an exhibit that overlays the SDP application with the previously approved sketch plan. The proposed infill building sites are integrated into the street network envisioned in the sketch plan. The applicant acknowledges that the drive-through site will eventually will need to be eliminated to implement the mixed-use development outline in the approved sketch plan. The proposed application will not preclude the developer's long-term role of implementing that sketch plan in the future. The applicant also notes that the high-rise multifamily construction that was envisioned in that 2008 master plan and sketch plan required enhanced construction techniques and materials which come at a great cost. When the market will support rents for high-rise multifamily construction, the applicant will pursue the implementation of residential uses shown on the sketch plan. The applicant also notes that there have been multiple STP applications within the Kentlands have been approved, but neither of those projects have proceeded to final site plan application. Next, so there was comments raised about the drive-through on Site H, such as access and vehicle stacking concerns. The applicant notes that the drive-through was conceptually designed with no specific tenant identified. Once a tenant is identified, the ultimate layout of the drive-through will be determined and potential adjustments made either to the building or the site will be made. Seoul has seen significant market demand for drive-throughs due to the COVID pandemic. And Seoul believes that drive-through retail stores are an important component in serving the community and providing a varied and competitive merchandising mix for the shopping center. The site plan was revised, you see here on the screen, to swap the existing 4 parking spaces in the existing island to further mitigate any conflicts with parked vehicles. The city's best practices memo primarily focuses on a drive-through with 1 lane. The applicant used the largest recommended stack length for food and beverage-based establishments to determine whether the proposed drive-through on Site H meets the intent of the best practices. The applicant notes that the double-lane drive-through are more efficient use of land and provide sufficient stacking capacity and meets the intent of the best practices memo. The applicant has also submitted an exhibit that demonstrates other existing double stacking drive-throughs to support that design. Lastly, there were comments about the overall pedestrian connectivity within the shopping center and the ability for customers to park their vehicles in one section of the shopping center and cross-shop at different stores safely. As shown on the screen, the applicant has provided an overall pedestrian connectivity exhibit. The existing sidewalks are highlighted in orange and the new sidewalks are highlighted in purple. The applicant notes that the exhibit demonstrates that there is adequate pedestrian connection no matter where the patrons park within the shopping center. The streetscape improvements will allow for safe and efficient pedestrian circulation from the STB area to other portions within the shopping center. So in conclusion, staff has reviewed the applicant's letter and is of the opinion that they have adequately addressed the comments raised by the Mayor and City Council and the Planning Commission. Staff is supportive of the proposed STP application and the requested parking waiver. The proposed infill sites will be developed within an existing shopping center, which will add more marketability to the center. The infill sites will not negatively impact the existing pedestrian circulation within the shopping center and will provide streetscape improvements that will further improve pedestrian circulation within the shopping center. This application will not preclude the shopping center to redevelop in compliance with the 2008 master plan and the sketch plan that was approved in 2017 in the future. The applicant has demonstrated that based on research, that there will be a surplus of parking to support the future tenants and the existing tenants. The infill sites will remove excess service parking spaces to provide streetscape improvements that will promote safe and efficient circulation. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll happy to answer any questions you may have this evening.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. This is a night of very thorough presentations, and we really appreciate it. So I'm going to start with a question, and then this is policy discussion. My question is, I see the Planning Commission has stuck on this requirement that at final site plan, there's some redesign of the drive-through. So with the way that works is regardless of how we vote, like we vote to support this, that requirement still exists at final site plan.
Yep, that's correct. It's noted in the CPC memo that when they do come back for final site plan, that drive-through has to be redesigned.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, honestly, there were two things that gave me a little pause about this project, which in general I'm supportive of, and I don't have a vote, but as is my practice, I'm going to explain how my thinking on it. The parking waiver and the drive-through were sort of the two sticky points, and I'm not certain I would have voted against it either way, but I do feel better that the Planning Commission's looking at that drive-through and will address it at final site plan. And I find the rationale behind the applicant's discussion on the parking waiver to be persuasive. So if I did have a vote, I would vote to support this project. With that, who'd like to go next? Ryan, then Lisa.
I'll just say very briefly, I had the same question that the mayor had, and I appreciate the answer. And I have the same precise view that the mayor has about some minor concerns, which I think are being addressed. And I do have a vote, so.
That was
ouch.
So it's not as great as you think. So anyway, I will be supporting the SDP.
Okay, Lisa.
Thank you. A question, and I asked that question, Jasmine, early in the email, and thank you for responding. Also, there's a possibility, this is the question, that the result may be no drive-through at all?
I can't answer that. I can ask for the tenant, but I think that their vision is to have a drive-through, and they're
okay.
advertising that whoever the tenant will go there on that site will have a drive-through.
Okay, thank you. And just for my information, I clearly don't get out of the house enough. What is a retail drive-through? I understand food and beverage, but what's
like at CVS or something, getting prescriptions,
okay.
that sort of thing.
Okay.
I'm just guessing that's what that means. That's how I've interpreted it. Am I
And I've
correct?
noticed that, like, during the COVID-19, retail has been looking at, drive-throughs differently. Someone might, if it was a clothing store, might do a pre-order and might just drive through and pick up their order.
Yes, for that.
Jim.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Jasmine, thank you so much for as Mayor Ashman pointed out, very thorough presentation, and I agree with the staff's very thorough recommendation. Thank you to the Planning Commission. I think that this is a good thing for the Kentlands as an interim step. I think we all look forward to seeing the future master plan come to fruition down the road. But similar to the way that the Starbucks and the Shake Shack, I think, will add to the Kentlands. I think this is an important step. I also had concerns about the parking, and I appreciate the due diligence that has been done there to address those concerns, and I support the parking waiver. And I do still have the same drive-through concerns, both on the stacking and the egress, and I'm glad to see that requirement will be there when it comes to the final site plan. But I will be supporting the application.
Thank you, Jim. We'll go to Rob.
Sure. I'm pretty much on the same page. I do have concern particularly about Lot 4. I know we talked about the overall surplus in parking, even with the waiver. And, just anecdotally, I think it's correct. Lot 2 and 3 are chronically underutilized, and these pads happen to fall mostly into that usage zone, but it also impacts Lot 4, which is not usually underutilized. And so I think it'll be incumbent on the owners to manage traffic expectations on the site. Question, I didn't see anything in the resolution about the drive-through changes. Does it need to be a condition of approval, or is it sufficient to just have a letter on the side and no mention of it in the resolution itself?
Staff thought it was enough that it was mentioned in the memo. And, there's a letter in the record from the applicant acknowledging that they will have to redesign that drive-through.
Okay, and so long as we're confident it's a binding condition on the approval of the resolution, if we vote in favor of the resolution, which I think it's going that way.
Lynn?
Now, that would be within the Planning Commission's authority anyway, at
Okay.
final site plan. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, good. Neil?
Not much more to add. The only thing I can say, which I think I said last time we had this discussion, was I would love to see more ambitious presentation for this shopping center. Some of the plans that were discussed several years back, I would love to see some movement, and I know that's the general opinion of the people in the neighborhood that have discussed this with me. But in the interim, this one project seems like it should be okay, given the proviso that the Planning Commission has put on it. So I will support it at this time.
Okay, would someone like to move the resolution of approval?
Before we do, Mr. Mayor, if I
Sure.
may, I'm not sure if this is just something that's always the way we write it, but the final sort of action paragraph of the draft resolution looked to me like it might be missing a word, and I just wanted to be clear on that. And I don't know if this is a question for Lynn, but I'm looking at packet page 91, which has the "therefore be it ordained." I'll give everybody a second to get there, but it says, "Therefore be it ordained by the council that the SDP, being an application filed by the applicant, et cetera, requesting approval, as well as the associated parking waiver." It doesn't say "is approved."
Is approved, yeah.
So I don't know if we need to add language that says "is approved," but if we do,
It says parking wavier as well.
I would be, well, I'm trying not to be that. But if we, if we can have it slightly amended.
Well, why don't you make the motion and amend it?
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution with the amendment to the language at the end of the resolution stating that the word waiver shall be spelled correctly, and that the words "is approved," is that okay, Lynn? "Is approved," shall be added to the end of the sentence.
I'll second the
Okay.
motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Did not notice that.
Greg Mann, you are up next. Thank you.
Good evening. This is the policy discussion for text amendment CTAM-9162-2022, which proposes updates to various sections of Chapter 24 of the City Code, Article 12, titled Preservation of Historic Resources. The joint public hearing was held on February 7th, 2022. The Mayor and City Council's record closed on March 22nd at 5 p.m. There are 15 exhibits in the record, 7 which were received after the joint public hearing. And as noted in the public hearing, the amendment will amend Section 24226 to better explain the designation and de-designation removal process, codifies work items delegated by the HDC that can be approved by staff, removes impact review areas from the article, removes the code section related to the relocation of utility and cable facilities within historic districts, clarifies the demolition permit review process for structures 50 years old or older, and clarifies various definitions and processes. The Planning Commission reviewed the amendment at their March 16th meeting and indicated their support of the proposed changes. 2 changes have been made since the joint public hearing that I'd like to make you aware of. The first is Section 24226E, which adds clarifying language to the historic district that historic designation cannot be removed in cases of demolition by neglect. The other change is retain the language for Section 227.2A. And this section outlines the factors the Historic District Commission uses when evaluating the historic area work permit application. After receiving guidance from the city's legal department, it was determined to maintain the current text as is currently drafted today in the ordinance. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Greg. So if there is a situation where there's demolition by neglect, what would the option be?
They would have to rebuild the structure, but again, we hope never to get to that situation, obviously, of a demolition by neglect.
Yeah.
Since I've been at the city, it's never occurred. And I don't think, and maybe Lynn can answer that better, but I don't think we've ever actually dealt with a demolition by neglect situation in the city.
We came close.
We did come close to 31 Walker, but thankfully, again, it was able to be saved at the end of the day.
Yeah, okay. This is policy discussion. I would be supportive of these. Who'd like to go first?
Mr. Mayor, I have a few technical housekeeping questions, kind of along the lines of the one I just raised in the last agenda item. So I apologize about getting into the nitty-gritty a little bit here. First, sort of a more general question. You talked about section 24-227.2 basically being changed back to its original version as a result of input from the city attorney's office. So just so we're all clear what the original version is versus with the red line, which version of the language is the original version that we're proposing that it stay in there?
Yeah, so the original language is the one that's based off factors for approval, not findings. So the staff had originally recommended making it findings-based, which would require the HDC to meet all the findings for granting their approval instead of the factor-based. Factor-based gives them a little more flexibility to weigh the different options under the code and the factors they use to grant that approval. The concern was under the factor, we'd end up with a lot more HOPs, historic area work permits not being issued, where maybe it meets the guidelines, but it doesn't meet some other section of those findings. So again, we felt the factors base was a little more flexible for the HDC's consideration of the application.
Okay. And then in subsection A2 of that section, the language in conformance with adopted guidelines, is that staying in, or is that also go?
That's staying in. It's just reverting that one sector, but instead of saying based off the findings below, it keeps the word factors.
Got it. Okay, that helps clarify. And then trying to find it. There was a section, I think, in 226, subsection 226, that referenced. Yeah, here it is. 24-226D, the proposed new D. Let me know when you've got it in front of you.
Package page.
It is packet page 245.
Thank you.
D3 says analysis of the application by the city planning department regarding criteria listed in section 24-226B and D. But if you scroll back to packet page 243, it looks like subsection B was removed. Or maybe it's a numbering issue. Maybe it's just a numbering issue. That 24-226C ought to now be B. I'm not sure. But I just wanted to raise that because it looked like it didn't quite match up. So again, that might just be a housekeeping issue, but you see what I'm saying?
It looks like B would not be changed or impacted. So there still should be a B, but it doesn't appear in the
I see. So
ordinance.
B does exist,
Yeah.
but it's just not in this draft,
Yeah.
and that the 3 stars represent an ellipsis.
It should be B, yeah.
There is a section 226B.
Yeah.
Okay. All
yes.
right. All right. And then I had a similar type question. Give me 1 second to try and find the spot. On section 227.3 on packet page 249. Subsection B, proposed new subsection B, states staff may approve the following work items, and then it looks like the items being referenced are in subsection C and D, and I guess that's fine.
I think you're
but
right.
normally those would be subsections of section B.
That's a formatting issue. You're
So
correct.
I don't know if that's a formatting issue that we ought to change or not, but I just wanted to raise that as well, that I would normally expect subsections C and D to be, tabbed in one on the outline function there, and then the individual items, tree removals and fences, et cetera, building material changes, sheds, et cetera, also indented in one further. But again, that's just a housekeeping issue. I'm not sure that it would actually affect the meaning or the application, but just to be clean and clear, I think we ought to do that. So those were my comments. Thanks.
What? I mean, it's policy discussion. So do you want to speak to the policy or no?
Yeah, I mean, policy-wise, other than the questions and comments I just raised, I support this. But I wanted to give our colleagues an opportunity to weigh in before making a motion that included any of this.
But I want to give you a chance to speak to the policy.
Yeah.
Jim, you look like you're raring to go.
I just had a question, actually, and I reached out to Lynn. On packet page 286, Lynn, do you have any thoughts about the correspondence that came in from Mr. Hummel with concerns regarding the expiration of the historic district's determination with regard to concerns about the length of the appeal process and because of that causing challenges.
Yeah, I mean, what's being proposed under the ordinance is to change, currently there is no expiration for a demolition permit, and the ordinance does propose to put a expiration of 2 years with a 1-year right to renew or request renewal to the HDC, so it could extend out 3 years. Mr. Hummel did raise the question of whether that should be longer or if it should be told in the event that there were an appeal. And I will agree with him that appeals do take time, particularly if it would go all the way through the process, because there would be potential for multiple appeals to different levels of the court and city agencies. However, I do think that it's not really an issue because the 2-year period triggers from issuance from the permit, not from approval by the HDC. There would be some period of time between HDC's decision and when the permit would actually be issued by the city. Any applicant has the right to request a stay during that period of time, should they file an appeal, and that stay would prevent the issuance of the permit itself, so the time would not begin to run. So I do believe that we are appropriately covered by the proposed language in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, as long as there is a procedure in place to, make sure that people are protecting their rights during the process, I think that that's fine. So I would support the change.
Okay. Rob Wood.
Sure, yeah, Mayor, I'm kind of where you were with this demolition by neglect notion. I think in our last hearing, I brought up something I had read about trees and them being in DC, I think it was, and developers just cutting down the trees that are hundreds of years old because the development opportunity outweighs the fee that they would assume for that. And so I guess my question, this may be a Lynn question, is, if there is an instance of demolition by neglect going down that line, how painful can we make it to the person or company or whoever it is that is trying to pursue that path to kind of skirt our historic preservation
I mean,
ordinances?
rebuilding the property could be painful.
Yeah.
That could be pretty painful, but go ahead, Lee.
But I mean, if we look through the citation in the court process, we would have the ability to issue fines of $1,000 per day. Those can be on a per day basis. Generally, the courts don't like it when you come in with 50 or 100 of those. So we would normally, before we get to that point, we would have the court issue what's called an abatement order, which would order the owner of the property to make the required repairs to the property. If they don't do that, eventually they could be held in contempt of court and jailed, which is also a pretty good motivation.
Painful.
Yeah.
Sounds painful. Okay. Question answered.
Okay. Neil?
I don't really have any additional comments to add to this. I mean, I think having a way to undo a historic designation is something that makes sense, given some of the cases that we've seen before. So I think this is a very reasonable approach to it, not making it too easy, but making it possible if it's really appropriate.
Lisa, do you want
I don't have any specific comments, but I did read through this document and am in favor of it and missed every one of Ryan's catches.
They were pretty obscure.
They were impressive.
They were impressive.
Okay, well, would someone like to move the ordinance here?
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Next, Laura, you have also anticipated me calling you up. Welcome, Laura McFood.
Good evening. This is a consolidated policy discussion on zoning map amendment Z8911 2021 and concept site plan application SP 8910 2021, including a request for a height waiver. The consolidated joint public hearing for these applications was held on January 18th, 2022. These applications were submitted for 18501 North Frederick Avenue, which is highlighted in red here on the screen at the corner of North Frederick and Travis Avenue. As discussed during the public hearing, application Z8911-2021 proposes to rezone 18501 North Frederick from the C2 General Commercial Zone to the CD Corridor Development Zone in compliance with the city's master plan. Concept site plan application SP 8910-2021 proposes to redevelop the site with 2 mixed-use buildings, both up to 6 stories tall, with multifamily residential above ground floor commercial and office uses. And as I mentioned earlier, the applicant is also applying for a height waiver. In the CD zone, properties in this northern employment district are allowed to be up to 6 stories or 65 feet by right, or up to 8 stories and 90 feet with a waiver. Neither building will exceed 6 stories, so the applicant is only asking for a waiver from the 65-foot height limit to allow the buildings to be up to 76 feet. In response to discussions that were had during the joint public hearing, the applicant has submitted a response statement, which was Exhibit 19 in the rezoning record, packet page 399, and Exhibit 27 in the concept plan record, packet page 548. The response statement addressed 5 main topics. The applicant reiterated compliance with the 2009 master plan land use element. They discussed phasing and timing. In terms of phasing, they discussed that the project could be built in 1 or 2 phases, and they noted that due to the need to honor their current leases and subsequent plan approvals, they expect construction potentially beginning around 2028. They pointed out some pedestrian improvements, especially this enhanced sidewalk along Travis Avenue. They're bringing it back from the street, adding a buffer, and expanding it to 10 feet, which connects all the way up to this new northern park in this corner of the property. And there's also additional pedestrian connections along this southeastern side as well. They discussed potential future amenities as well as enhancements to this gateway corner at the corner of 355 and Travis Avenue. They're envisioning walking path, landscaping, and public art, adding that to that gateway corner in order to activate the area. The Planning Commission, upon their review of the record and staff's analysis, gave a recommendation of approval for both applications and the height waiver during their March 2nd, 2022 meeting. The Council's record closed at 5 p.m. on Friday, March 11th, 2022, and staff only received 1 comment from the public for this application, and it was regarding stormwater requirements. A draft ordinance for the rezoning Z8911-2021 and draft resolutions for both the height waiver and the concept plan SP 8910-2021 have been included and are ready for final action should the council so choose. And staff notes that this will require 3 separate motions. Representatives from the applicant's team are here, as well as staff, and we will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Laura. If I don't really have much to say on the substance of what you just presented, other than the timing, I certainly would like to see. I think this is a great project. If I had a vote, I would vote for this twice. I'd vote for it 3 times. But I'd love to see it come to fruition sooner. But I understand that the challenge with the existing leases. I think this is a fantastic opportunity for the east side of our city. I think it continues the momentum that's going on at Spectrum, and that we're seeing at the corner, at the Matten property, at the corner of 355 and 124, and in sort of other places where there's either existing investment or there's been interest expressed in investment in the city. This is near and dear to my heart. The revitalizing the east side of the city has been at the top of my priority list since I was on the city council at the very beginning in 2007. I know many of my colleagues here share this. So I see this really major investment, this major improvement to this property, and I couldn't be more supportive of this thing. So that's where I am. Who'd like to go now? We'll go to Neil.
So I'll concur with everything that the mayor just said. It would be nice to see it move forward more quickly, but the reality is the reality. So, I'm impressed with the plan and the progress that it's made so far. And, I've seen, Kimco has also done very good work in the properties that it controls in Kentland. So I'm very glad to see that you're moving forward with this ambitious plan at this location. So it looks great. Thank you.
Rob Wu?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And so my soul is divided on this. My vote isn't. I'm very supportive of this project. I think it is going to move forward this area of the county. Where my soul is divided is that this vote in favor will essentially end one of our beloved ice cream institutions here in the city, and I hope we can find places for them. As my waistline, probably shows people, I'm a big fan of Brewster's. I probably go there at least once every 2 weeks with my family, and will do so through 2028 or whenever project breaks ground. But this project itself is great. I think it moves it forward. In fact, I like this one better than. I don't know if there's a rivalry between Kimco and Saul, but I like this project a lot better than what we just voted in favor of, and I will be voting in favor of it. I'm just hoping that we can find a way either on this site or through some kind of grants or working with economic development to find a place for Brewster's in the city should they wish to remain. But
I mean, maybe they can lease out space in
yeah,
this new project. That's very possible.
And I will shop there until I'm...
Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. Interesting point to me on packet page number, what is this? 358. The drawing of the pedestrian circulation in open spaces. We show a pedestrian path across Frederick Avenue, which is a point of concern here. I'm not sure that legitimately should be drawn as a pedestrian path. At least we know it's not currently a safe one.
Mhm.
And with that said, I see comments in the packet about crosswalks, implementing crosswalks. What other opportunities are there in terms of addressing safety for the pedestrians to get across 355 to Spectrum and vice versa?
So this is something that came up at Planning Commission recommendation. So it is noted in the CPC. Planning Commission also expressed a desire for enhanced pedestrian connection across 355 to Spectrum. And the applicant also noted in their response statement their willingness to work with neighboring properties as well as transportation partners, SHA, and also Montgomery County to establish a safe pedestrian connection. So I think the plans show a potential crosswalk there, but it does note that they will need to further refine the design and work with SHA in the future to ensure that there's that safe connection across the street.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Lisa. Jim?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate the thoughtful responses from the applicant with regard to the questions that we had at the public hearing. I do support the rezoning. I do support the height waiver. I think that the arguments made for those make a lot of sense. I too echo the comments of my colleagues' excitement about reinvestment on the east side of Gaithersburg, combined with the other projects that are either in the works or being contemplated. We could have brand new bookend gateway projects for the city, both north and south on 355, and that's really exciting. I know it's been a big priority. It's one of the reasons that I'm sitting here in this chair. So to see some of these projects coming through to fruition, at least in the planning stages, is very exciting. I'm excited about the commitment to work with the surrounding communities, with SHA on the connection. I think Mayor Ashman was one that brought up the potential of a pedestrian bridge. I think that, however we can connect those neighborhoods and make that into a community feel on the northern end of our city is going to be really important. And I appreciate the applicant's commitment to exploring those options. I also share Councilmember Wu's concern about our favorite ice cream place in the city, and I definitely would ask the owners of that franchise to stay here in the city, whether it's at the same location or another place, particularly on the east side. I'm just going to say we need to keep something on the east side. But no, I'm very much in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
I'll agree with what's been said about encouraging the continued exploration of pedestrian connectivity across Frederick Avenue. The mayor did bring up the idea of a pedestrian bridge. I think at that public meeting I said I don't necessarily need a bridge, but we need some kind of better connectivity. It sounds like we're all in agreement about that. This, of course, is concept plan level and not, SDP or, other further along process where those kinds of details hopefully will be worked out. And I think the message is clear to the applicant staff that that's something very important to us that we want to have them work with SHA on. But that said, I agree with all the positive things that have been said, and really excited about this project. And I think for all the reasons stated in the draft ordinances and resolutions, and all of the staff analyses, this really is a no-brainer.
And just so the applicant knows, I mean, I'm seeing on the council here a lot of support for the idea of some sort of enhanced pedestrian facility there, whether it's a bridge or something else to make that connectivity better. We have good relationships with people in the state legislature. Perhaps there are bond bill opportunities. Perhaps there's opportunities with the county to partner. So we can get, we're willing to work with the applicant in getting creative on this later. So just want to point that out. And with that, so we have several motions we have to go through here. Ryan, you want to lead us off?
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I will move the ordinance to rezone to the CD zone for the reasons stated in the draft ordinance.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, carries 5-0. Next motion. Ryan, if you get there first, go right ahead. Just make the motion.
I'll go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
I'll move approval of the resolution, the mayor and city council granting approval of height waiver as part of concept site plan SP 8910-2021.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 5-0.
I'd like to move the resolution of the mayor and city council granting approval of the concept plan SP-8910-2021.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carries 5-0. And there we go. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is from the city attorney.
And no report this evening.
And we have from other staff, I think we have some things from Dennis tonight.
Just going to actually pull up the 2 slides for I can do this myself.
3.
The proclamations.
3 slides, sorry, yeah.
Okay, there's our Arab American Heritage Month slide, which we will be putting these out on social media as well. You need to know the packet page, Dennis?
No, I got them all.
You're good.
I just
Okay.
need to type them in. Green months.
Our Green Month proclamation.
Days of Remembrance.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dennis, for following up on that. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Just to follow up then. Very conscientious of you. Okay. Anything from any other staff? Not seeing anything. Okay. I will remind everyone that we have our work session next week, Monday, April 11th, to receive a presentation on Metropolitan Washington Planning Framework 2030 And the next regular meeting of the Mayor and Council will be on Monday, April 18th. And until next time, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.